And what I want to do now is go out to the Office 365 Admin Center and drill down into the Microsoft Teams Admin Center and just show you a few of the items that can be configured from an admin's perspective. And remember, everything that I do through the GUI, you saw the PowerShell commands that we can use for also configuring them from within PowerShell. Let's jump out and take a look at the Admin Center for Microsoft Teams. I've opened up the Office 365 Admin Center so you can see how I navigate to the Teams Admin Center. So I'm going to scroll down here, and you're going to see the Admin Center has been expanded already. And they've already combined Teams and Skype. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Teams and Skype to open up that interface. Remember, Skype for Business is going to be phased out over a period of time. When we come in here, we have the dashboard, and we have this option up here for call analytics is now available to access for a user. Go to their call history in the user's profile page by searching for the user or choosing them from the user's table. And then it disappeared. But you'll see Microsoft will do that. They'll actually pop up little informational messages for you, and then they'll disappear. But as you can see in the dashboard, we have a Microsoft Teams upgrade option. Here's where I can search for a user, as it talked about. Here's some information about the organization. Here's some help articles, and here's some admin training. So this is all available from the user interface or the dashboard inside of Teams. Now I want to expand on this. I'm going to click on these three lines here. And you can see now, instead of just having the icons, I have an explanation or a title of what each of these icons mean. So we're on the dashboard. We've already seen that. And because of the real estate use, it's actually stacking the different items that we had more horizontally before. If we can go to locations here, I can go in and I can upload just an example of the physical location of offices, buildings, or organizational sites. And then I can use this for associating IP addresses. Let's get into the good stuff. Here are my users. These are users who have a license to use Teams. And as you can see here, we have about 5 different users here. And there's their email address, their location, and these are the policies that are assigned. So for global, well, what global policies does Brian have? Well, he has a team messaging policy using the global organization-wide default, as is the Teams meeting policy, the Teams upgrade policy, and the Teams live events policy. I'm going to show you more about these policies in just a second. If I go down to Vicky, she's got Teams messaging policy default, Teams messaging policy all on. So that's a different policy than the default organization-wide, and then also the Teams upgrade policy and the Teams live events policy. So on a per user basis, we can set these policies. Let me scroll over and see what other information that we get here. And you'll see here we have the directory status, which is your information about Active Directory, audio conferencing, off, phone system, calling plan, and account status. All of these are configured here per user. We can filter it because we have our little funnel here, and then we can change the view here by editing columns. So that's our standard out-of-the-box look, feel, smell, and taste of our users. If we expand on the meetings, notice here we have meeting policies, meeting settings, and live event policy. So within here, I can control what my users can do when they're working with meetings. So I'll click on a meeting policy. So you're going to see we have some policies here. Remember, Vicky had an all on, and I had a global organization-wide default. So we can manage and configure these. I can also come in here and create a new policy. And I'm going to do that just to show you what the different options are. I would give it a title. Then I would have some of the general settings for meeting policies. Allow Meet Now. Allow the Outlook add-in, allow channel meeting scheduling, allow scheduling private meetings, all turned on by default. Audio video, allow transcription, off by default, allow cloud recording, allow IP video, and if we go down to content sharing, are we going to allow screen sharing mode, the entire screen, or we can drop that down to a single application or completely disable that. Allow a participant to give a request control. So I'm working with you, and I'm trying to show you something, and you want to chime in, or I want you to be able to take control. We can do that with that second option there. Allow an external participant to give a request control. Notice our guests are off by default. Allow PowerPoint sharing, whiteboard, and shared notes. Participants and guests allow anonymous users to start meetings, and that's off by default, and automatically admit users. By default, everyone in your organization can join the meeting. We also have another option, everyone in your organization and federated organizations are some additional settings here. So that's a meeting policy that I can set up. If I go to meeting settings, in here we have anonymous users can join a meeting. That's turned on by default. And here's some information to kind of customize it. So it gives you your organization's look, smell, taste, and feel. The logo URL, the legal URL, the help URL, and even a footer. Here's some network information regarding the ports for the audio, the video, the screen sharing. So notice the audio is 50,000 to 50,019, video is 50,020 to 50,039, and screen sharing ports are 50,040 to 50,059. So there's a total number of 20 ports for each one of these, and I can specify these port ranges. Now, I need to make sure that these port ranges are open on my firewall in order for some of these activities to take place. That's why it's important for you to understand what these port numbers are. Live events policies, again, we have a global organization-wide default. We can click on a new one. Allow scheduling, allow transcription for attendees, who can join, and recording settings. And notice this one is set for always record. We also say never record or organizer can record, so it's optional. So those are some options that we have under meetings. Messaging policies, and here you'll see that we have just the one, the global organization-wide default. We can create a new one in here. What can my users do when it comes to messaging? Some of the options are owners can delete sent messages. Users can delete sent messages. Users can edit sent messages. Read receipts are user controlled. Chat. What do we want our jiffies or giffies, whatever they're called, in conversations? Are we going to allow them? We have a parental guide for them. Strict, moderate, or no restriction. So we can control what type of jiffies are actually stored there. Allow the use of memes, the use of stickers, allow URL previews, and allow users to translate messages. All of these are options that we can control. If we go to our organization-wide settings, and we saw when we were looking at the individual users, we have external access settings, guest access, team settings, and teams upgrade. So we'll click on external access, and we'll come in here. Are we going to allow our users to be able to communicate with users external to our organization? It's on by default. We can turn that off, which means we can't do anything within the guest. We can't invite others external to the organization to be part of a conversation. So we have that one. We can also specify domain. So if this is enabled, I can say add a domain. So I'm okay to be able to communicate with someone external to their organization as long as they're in the Microsoft.com domain. So we can click on that and we can say microtechpoint.com is allowed. Notice we can block individuals. So if we have someone that's harassing us, we can say we don't want xyz.com. So we can actually set up a blocking as well. And our next option is guest access. Allow guest access in Microsoft Teams. Notice that's on by default. They can make private calls. They can allow IP video. Screen sharing mode is the entire screen. Allow Meet Now. So these are strictly for people external to their organization. Messaging options, the jiffies, the memes, the stickers. So we have all these options that we can control separately from what we're doing with our users internal to the organization. Our Teams settings, we have email integration, and we have file options. Turn on or off file sharing and cloud file storage options for the Files tab. When I go into Files, I might have files that are currently in Dropbox. I may allow them, I could allow them, and as you can see by default, they're allowed to move those files in from Dropbox or ShareFile or Box or Google Drive. I may want to prevent that. And I was with a company originally that was going to turn this off until everybody got comfortable with Teams and then turn it on for groups of individuals at a time to allow them to migrate their content into Teams. Here within the organization option, show organization tab and chats. So people want to see their organization hierarchy. The Skype for Business interoperability option is there. And then we have device control over here. Set up how meeting room devices operate within meetings. This first one require a secondary form of authentication, set content pins, and we can also come down here and look at search options. Here's the item for Teams upgrade. We saw that earlier. And this is an option for us to decide whether or not we're going to allow our users to coexist with Skype for Business or actually upgrade straight up to Teams. Then we have the legacy portal, which is what it looked like prior to the integration of Teams with the Skype for Business. We have that call quality dashboard, and we have our first line worker configuration. So this is an example of some of the settings that we can configure for Microsoft Teams. And notice the big thing I want you to remember is that we can decide whether we want interaction with users external to the organization. That's a huge one. And then if we are going to allow them, we can further refine what they're going to be able to do. We may not want them to have the same capabilities as an individual internal to the organization. And don't forget, a lot of these settings can be managed using PowerShell. Like the fund settings. Remember we had that verb-team fund settings? And that's where we can set whether we're going to allow the use of memes and jiffies. We also had the verb-team guest settings. We had the verb-team member settings. Some of these settings that we saw in here can easily be controlled using PowerShell with those commands that we talked about prior to this demonstration. So I just wanted to get comfortable with the look, smell, taste, and feel of how these Microsoft Teams and Skype for Business Admin Center looks today.